Imagine waking up one morning and realizing something inside your body has changed. You don't have a pregnancy test. You don't have an ultrasound. You don't have a doctor. You don't even know exactly how many months are left. And when the time finally comes, there is no hospital waiting for you. No operating room, no modern painkillers, no emergency ambulance, just you, your community, and the wilderness. So, what actually happened when an ancient woman became pregnant? Was pregnancy easier because ancient humans lived naturally? Or was it one of the most dangerous experiences a woman could survive? In this video, we're going to follow one pregnancy from the first signs through the months of carrying the baby, the dangers she faced while hunting and traveling, what ancient communities may have done to support pregnant women, and finally, the moment that could decide whether both mother and baby survived. But there's something even more surprising. The biggest danger may not have been pregnancy itself. It may have been what happened when pregnancy was almost over. So, let's go back thousands of years. Our story begins with a woman living in a small prehistoric community. She doesn't have a calendar like we do. She doesn't know the exact date her pregnancy began, but eventually she notices something different. Her usual cycle doesn't arrive. Maybe she feels unusually tired. Maybe certain smells suddenly become unpleasant. Maybe food she normally enjoys makes her feel sick. Today, these signs would immediately make someone think about pregnancy, but for an ancient woman, the meaning wasn't always obvious. She had no medical tests to confirm what was happening. She had to rely on her body, and that created an enormous uncertainty because she wasn't simply waiting for a baby. She was living in an environment where almost every day required physical work. Food had to be found, water had to be collected, fire had to be maintained, children had to be protected, and sometimes the entire group had to move. Pregnancy didn't automatically mean she could stop participating, but now something had changed. Her body had another priority. The growing fetus needed energy, nutrients, and protection, and that created our first survival problem. How do you grow another human being when food itself isn't guaranteed? Think about that for a second. If food becomes scarce today, we can visit a supermarket. An ancient community couldn't. If the hunt failed, there might simply be less food, and that could make pregnancy much harder. Now, here's a question for you. If you lived thousands of years ago and your partner became pregnant, what would you do first? Would you protect her from physical work, or would you expect her to continue normally? Comment your answer, because the ancient answer may surprise you. As the pregnancy progressed, her body began changing. Her abdomen expanded. Her balance changed. Her center of gravity shifted. And activities that once felt normal could become harder. But prehistoric life didn't come with maternity leave. If the community needed to move, she might have to move with them. If water was far away, someone still had to collect it. If food was difficult to find, the group still had to search. This doesn't mean every pregnant woman was forced to do dangerous work. In fact, social cooperation could have reduced some of the physical burden, but pregnancy couldn't completely separate a person from the environment. Imagine walking across rough ground while carrying a growing baby. There are no paved roads, no comfortable shoes, no car, and if you fall, there isn't an emergency department nearby. That makes ordinary activities suddenly much more dangerous. And then there's another problem: infection. A small wound that seems insignificant today could become much more serious without modern antibiotics. A simple illness could also become dangerous during pregnancy. So, ancient pregnancy wasn't just about the baby growing. It was about surviving everything around the pregnancy. But here's the part most people don't think about. Right? The human body is remarkably good at pregnancy, but human childbirth has a unique problem. Our babies have relatively large heads, and human mothers have a pelvis adapted for walking upright. That creates a difficult biological compromise. The baby's head has to pass through the birth canal. And unlike many animals, humans generally can't simply give birth alone in complete isolation without assistance. This is where another human enters the story. A birth attendant, a mother, an older woman, a relative, someone with experience. And that experience could become incredibly valuable when labor finally began, because nobody could simply call a doctor. The people around her had to depend on what they knew. Knowledge wasn't stored in books, it was stored in people. And some of that knowledge could have been passed from one generation to the next. But experience couldn't guarantee a safe birth. And this is where the story becomes much more serious. The contractions begin. At first, they may have been separated by long periods. Then they become stronger and closer together. The entire mood of the shelter changes. Everyone knows this is no longer just another day. This is the moment they've been waiting for. But nobody knows exactly what will happen next. And that's what made childbirth so frightening. Today, doctors can monitor a pregnancy in ways ancient people couldn't. They can detect problems. They can perform emergency procedures. They can treat serious infections. Ancient communities didn't have those options. They had people, they had experience, and they had each other. But sometimes even that wasn't enough. Childbirth could turn dangerous very quickly. A baby might not be positioned correctly. Labor could become obstructed. Severe bleeding could occur. An infection could become deadly. These were problems that modern medicine can sometimes respond to, but thousands of years ago, the options were far more limited. So let me ask you something. If you were born thousands of years ago, would you rather face childbirth then or pregnancy today? Comment then or today, and don't answer too quickly. Because there's one thing about ancient pregnancy that might make you rethink your answer. Ancient women weren't helpless. Their bodies were adapted to pregnancy just like ours are. And their communities had something modern life sometimes lacks: direct human experience. An older woman could share what she had learned. Another person could gather food. Someone else could watch the children. Someone could carry the heavier objects. And someone could stay beside the mother during labor. That support could make an enormous difference. But the hardest moment was still coming. The baby was ready, the mother was exhausted, and the community became completely focused on one thing: getting the mother and baby through the birth. The contractions became powerful. She pushed, she rested, then she pushed again. Every person around her was waiting, and then the baby was born. For a moment, everything stopped, and then came the sound everyone was waiting for. The baby cried. The mother had survived. But the story wasn't over, because now came another survival challenge. The baby was extremely vulnerable. It couldn't walk. It couldn't find food. It couldn't protect itself. It depended completely on other humans, and this is where something remarkable happened. The baby wasn't just the mother's responsibility. The whole community could become part of the child's survival. Someone could gather food. Someone could maintain the fire. Someone could watch the surroundings. Someone could care for older children. And the mother could focus on recovering. Think about how important that was. Humans don't produce babies that can immediately survive alone. Human children need years of protection and learning. And that may be one reason cooperation became so important to our species. Our ancestors didn't survive simply by being strong. They survived by helping one another. And pregnancy may have been one of the clearest examples of that. So what actually happened when an ancient woman became pregnant? She entered a world without modern medical safety. She still had to deal with hunger, illness, physical work, and danger. But she also had something incredibly powerful: other humans. Knowledge passed down, food shared, children protected, and a newborn welcomed into the group. That is the real story of ancient pregnancy. It wasn't simply about surviving pregnancy. It was about humans surviving together. And maybe that's the biggest lesson ancient pregnancy can teach us. Humans didn't make it this far because life was easy. We made it because when survival became difficult, people helped each other. If you lived thousands of years ago, would you trust your community during childbirth? Comment yes or no below. And if you want to see how ancient children survived their first dangerous years, subscribe for the next story.